I ask you, how impressive was this?
First of all, details did not emerge. Tom Brady teams leaked this information. They did not emerge out of all of a sudden. This information came out of the sky before the season's about to start. The following season is about to get up underway. But here's the thing. It's impressive, but I'm not that impressed by it because he plays a position that's not reliant on physical ability, his ability to move around. Now, because it relies on him to be subtle, not sudden. Now, Lamar Jackson playing with this, Kyler Murray playing with this would be more impressive, Skip. I think the more impressive thing for me that Tom Brady did last year is uprooting his family, leaving one team after 20 years, going to a new team. Although the team was immensely talented, he goes to this team. It's in a COVID season. He doesn't have the normal. The one thing that we know about Tom Brady, he liked the monotony of doing things over and over and over again, being able to show up at the same time, being able to get his throwing in, being able to meet like he normally would. But because of protocols, the COVID protocols that the NFL set in place, he was not able to go through a normal, what Tom Brady would like to think is a normal season. So that, in him going there, playing as well as he did, getting his team to a Super Bowl in his own building and winning that was more impressive to me than him playing with a torn MCL, Skip, because he's not reliant on his legs to move around and make plays like that. Like I said, he's a subtle player, not a sudden player. So all things being equal, I believe what he accomplished outside of the injury was more impressive than him playing with the injury. Because, Skip, let this sink in. He had 401 completions. That's only one fewer than he had at any point in time in a season. Lets you know the level of talent that he's playing with. Even though he was 43 years of age, he was still able to get it done. So I believe because he plays a position and he had an injury and the position that he played, he's not reliant on his legs to run around like some quarterbacks are. I believe that's less impressive than what he actually accomplished going to a different team after 20 years and winning the Super Bowl. But lo and behold, right on cue, now a new season, we're about to do this. Because what you're trying to do, Skip, basically going to come out here and bang on the table. He beat Aaron Rodgers. He beat Drew Brees. He beat Patrick Mahomes on a torn MCL when the guy was never that mobile. So it didn't require him to do anything out of the ordinary in which he didn't do. We know that when he sees a hit coming, he's going to do the fainting goat. He's going to fall to the ground. He's not taking unnecessary punishment, and rightfully so. But I believe the most impressive thing he did was leaving one location after 20 years, going to a different location and winning the Super Bowl. That's more impressive to me than him playing with a torn MCL, considering that he's not a mobile quarterback and he's not trying to move and leave the pocket anyway.
My turn. He beat Aaron Rodgers. He beat Drew Brees. He beat Patrick Mahomes on a torn MCL. Are you kidding me?
See, I knew it.
Thank you for setting me up for that. Shannon Sharpe, you just refuse to give this man full credit for anything. You just discount and undercut everything this man ever attempts to achieve in the league in which you starred and in which you now represent in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You will just not give in to Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Am I correct about that?
Skip, I said it was impressive. I said it just wasn't the most impressive thing that he accomplished. You told me yourself, when people have torn meniscus, you tell me yourself, you've had that injury and you've gone out and gone and run. So how difficult is it?
Different ball game. We're talking about the ligaments. There are three big ligaments, as you well know, that stabilize the knee.
Yes.
And if one of them is ruptured or torn, you have no more stability in your knee. It's going to wobble from side to side, and it's going to buckle under you when you least expect it. The cartilage tear is different because it will just catch in the mechanism of your knee unexpectedly, and it will bite you. It will be excruciating for a moment, but you can sort of shake it off. It will just be more of an irritant, an annoyance after a while, as we saw Joel Embiid attempt to do in the playoff run when he played with a small tear in his cartilage. And that's a whole different ball game from this ball game. So my conclusion to this is this closes the case that last year for Tom Brady was the single greatest season accomplishment of anyone in the history of your league. And you detailed much of it, but this is the, if you will, the icing on top. This is the case closer, because to your point, it was a COVID season. It was a COVID off season. He joins a brand new team, a team that had gone 7-9 the year before, a franchise known as the Buccaneers, which had the worst winning percentage in all of sports for its history, a new coach, a new coaching staff, and with little to no offseason preparation and zero preseason games, he dives into the fray. They lost the opener at New Orleans, predictably, because the NFL threw them right into the fire. And they had their ups and they had their shocking downs, a lot of them on national television, such as New Orleans again on a Sunday night at Tampa, and it was a mismatch. And yet Brady slowly but surely created the Patriot way in Tampa Bay. He brought that team to a boil, including, as you always point out, the defense. And everything began to click right on schedule when Tom Brady is always the biggest money in the playoffs. And they went to Washington and won, and they went to Breeze and righted the wrong at New Orleans. And they went to Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers had his first ever home NFC NFC championship game. And Brady beat Rodgers at Lambeau, which led to Brady outplaying Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, albeit in his home stadium back in Tampa. What an extraordinary achievement, topped only by the breaking news, and I'm going to agree with you, this had to come from Brady's camp. I guess there's a chance it came from somebody inside the Buccaneers organization, but it actually makes the Buccaneers look pretty shaky, because not once did Tom Brady appear on the injury report for a knee that I'm aware of. So will they get fined for this? Very possibly they will get fined.
That's a small consolation, Skip. After winning the Super Bowl, whatever you find me, I'm good.
Okay. The other little piece of information that shocked me was that, according to whoever leaked the source, leaked the news, is that Brady tore his MCL in New England at the end of that disaster that befell him and his team at the end of the previous season. Obviously, they lost the home playoff game to Tennessee. I don't know when that was. The story didn't indicate when that was. But I believe the story because Rick Stroud is the reporter who has covered that team for years in Tampa for the Tampa Times now.
Times. Yep.
And I know Rick Stroud, and he is top notch. And if he reported it, I'm taking it to my bank. So if he reported that Brady had torn it at some point late in the season in New England, I'll buy that. The other shock to me, Shannon, is if you rupture or tear your MCL, why wouldn't you get it fixed last offseason ahead of your first season in Tampa? Is it possible he just didn't want that out there because he was a free agent and he thought maybe that would ruin his chances of landing a new gig? Maybe.
There's some of that to it, Skip, but it tells me that if he knew he ruptured it, he didn't even tell the Patriots because he didn't want the Patriots to know, which leads me to believe he knew all along he was leaving New England. Because, Skip, if there's a possibility that I'm going to stay there, I'm going to have it fixed. Well, I'm not having it fixed. I'm not telling anybody anything is wrong with me because, first of all, I don't want you to fix it. And then, second of all, I don't want anybody to think I'm damaged goods. Because remember, Skip, if I got a torn MCL, I'm already 43 years of age. I'm going to be going into a different situation. I'm going to be viewed differently, even if I'm Tom Brady. So he's like, I'm gonna keep this. Hey, let's keep this hush as long as we possibly can. And as you said, things started to roll in their favor in a positive manner, and they go on and win the Super Bowl. But like I said, I don't remember him being on the injury report in New England. Now, that's a long time ago, but we'd have to go back and pull the records and see how many times did he show up on the injury report for a knee. Now, I know he missed some practices, and they said because of his shoulder, but I don't remember him missing any practices or time off because of a knee.
Okay, so now back to your original point. Was this leaked, in fact, by somebody in Brady's camp or maybe Brady himself to Rick Stroud? Sure, highly possible, highly probable. Is Brady trying to enhance or embellish his GOATness? Is he just trying to build the legend to an even higher height? Sure he is, but he deserves to, because I'm going to remind you, think about what he went through for all those years in New England under the thumb of Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Remember what happened the week before the AFC Championship game at home against Jacksonville, which led to the Philly debacle in the Super Bowl. But remember what happened that week on, I think it was a Wednesday practice.
Right.
I think it was Burkhead somehow reached for, that's what they report. I don't know what the truth is. You had trouble. You had issues with the truth of this, and you could be right about it. But somehow, some way, Brady tore open the palm of his throwing hand 4 days really, before the AFC title game at home against what was called Saxonville, one of the hottest defenses in the league at that point, especially rushing the quarterback. And according to Brady, it required 12 stitches in the palm of his throwing hand. And obviously, the stitches alone would make it a little awkward and a little dicey trying to hold on and spin the football, especially in cold weather. So I thought it was pretty great that he sucked it up, as he's often done with other injuries, and just said, hell with it, I'm going to do this with the stitches in my hand. And there was all kinds of what was written in several books about what were they going to do. Were they going to cover the stitches? And at the end, minutes before kickoff, he took off the glove and just said, I'm just going to go with this. Okay, so he goes out. They're behind 20-10 early in the fourth quarter at home to Jacksonville. And Tom Brady proceeds to throw for 138 yards in the fourth quarter, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and they roar all the way back and win the game 24-20. And in the postgame, when his coach, Bill Belichick, was asked about Brady sucking it up and playing with the wounded right hand, Bill Belichick's response was, well, it wasn't exactly open heart surgery. Okay, well, it wasn't open heart surgery, but it was a pretty big deal, at least in my point of view.
For a quarterback?
I would say it's a pretty big deal. It's not open heart surgery, but for a quarterback, it's nearly the equivalent of. So my point is, I think that stung Brady to his core.
Of course.
I think it angered him. I think it just made him sick that coach wouldn't give him the slightest bit of credit for sucking it up and playing, and not only playing, but starring in the fourth quarter and saving another day in Foxborough. Right?
Skip, can I speak to you from an athlete's perspective?
Yep.
What we get really upset about is when someone tries to minimize the extent of our injury. It's easy to say because it's not your hand that's opened up. It's not you that's going to have to, with an open hand, go throw a football. But, Skip, I tried to tell you for the past 5 years, I said Brady is more human than you think. He might not, I say, but he's seething underneath. He hears what his coach is saying about him. He's minimizing him. Even after everything he's accomplished, he minimizes him at every turn. I said he might not ever say it, but trust me, he's seething underneath because he's human. You didn't want to believe me at the time that I was saying it, and once he got out of there, you listen to that Brady talk. He talks in code, but he makes it abundantly clear. I'm very happy. I appreciate everything that I was able to accomplish. I appreciate what Coach Belichick did for me. But as I got older and I'm in a different environment now, I realized we probably could have won just as much with not his iron fist on every single thing, without him talking down in a condescending manner to every single one, every single person, player on that team.
I so agree. I hear you. And I remind you that 2 weeks later, in a Super Bowl game in Minneapolis, Tom Brady threw for an all-time playoff record, not just a Super Bowl, a playoff record, 505 yards, and scored 33 points. His offense scored 33.
Correct.
And Belichick's defense gave up 41, in part because mysteriously and never to be explained, at least yet, Malcolm Butler was doghoused for the whole game. The defensive player who had played the most snaps during the regular season on defense didn't get to play a single defensive snap in a Super Bowl game for no reason that we are aware of. And Brady was obviously livid and furious after that, leading to his remarks out here in L.A. and Santa Monica to Jim Gray a month or so after the Super Bowl, in which he made his first critical remarks of Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots organization. That was the beginning of the end.
Yes.
Okay. So it leads to this, and I got you. Brady leaked this because he wanted it known, because he wanted this to be the greatest story never told, now being told, in part because he had to just swallow it for 20 years in New England and put up with that coach who's now obviously on the hot seat, struggling. We'll see how they do now as they go forward with a potentially new rookie quarterback or Cam. But I think Brady thinks he's got Belichick on the run. He's obviously got the advantage for the moment. All he did was go win a Super Bowl for another team. So my point is, yeah, Brady's gloating over this. He's beating his chest over it, and I don't have any problem with that because he's earned the right to do it. And I do think it was extraordinary that he played an entire season with a new team and won a Super Bowl at age 43 on a torn MCL, which leads us to your contention about he's not the most mobile quarterback. Obviously, he's not. Well, I'll give you this. There is no way Lamar or Kyler could play on a torn MCL. I don't think they could even, they wouldn't even try. The team doctor, their personal doctor would say, you can't even try. You got to get it fixed now. And you're going to miss this season, right?
Yeah, no skill. Skip, I don't believe any skill position player could play with that because, like you said, that's a stability ligament. And skill position players need stability. Now, Tom does wear a knee brace, and he's not doing any sudden movement. Like I said, his movements are subtle. They're not sudden. You mentioned two guys that their movements are sudden. There's nothing subtle about Lamar Jackson, about Kyler Murray. And so for me, Skip, and also this goes back a little bit further, Skip. This goes back to the Deflategate when they asked Coach Belichick, and Coach Belichick was driving a big 18-wheeler and drove it over Tom Brady. Said, I don't know nothing about no football. Ask Tommy. I'm like, wait. Tom is like, hold on, wait a minute. What you mean, ask Tom? Instead of just saying, look,
he did.
We inflate our footballs to the regulation, and to the best of my knowledge, that's what they were when the officials came and checked them. Anything outside of that, we, the team, doesn't know anything about. But you don't point the finger at your quarterback when you know he's the guy that he and Peyton Manning was one of the two guys that had the NFL to lax the rules that says, let us have the footballs up until Sunday so we can throw them, get used to them, instead of just taking the balls out of the box and then going and playing football with them. So that was really the start of it right there, Skip.
It was.
But like I said, Coach Belichick brought them on himself. But Skip, Tom Brady just built a $150 million house, and he put mink carpet and chinchilla on all the walls and the floors. It's unnecessary. Tom Brady telling you this information after everything that he accomplished this year was unnecessary. But to him, it was very necessary because he wanted to show the one guy that it mattered to the most. He'll never say this, Skip. I don't believe he'll ever say this publicly or privately at fear of it getting back. This championship meant more to him than any other championship.
I agree.
The
Yeah.
only one that would have come close was the 19-0 championship. Now, that wouldn't have touched this one. I mean, it would have touched this one. But of all the Super Bowls that he won, I believe this one is the most important to him.
Okay. Final point of contention. I am going to defend Brady on his subtle movement. It is subtle, I give you that.
Yeah,
but it's also movement because he has some of the greatest pocket feet I have ever witnessed. Montana had great pocket feet.
Yes.
There's something to be said for the subtle movement to buy a split second from side to side, to feel the rush, to slip here or slide there, and get the throw away.
Right.
And he is not good. He's all-time great at that.
Yes.
And to do that, you have to trust some stability in your left knee. And I don't think he trusted it much at all. He had to work around it. And trust me, at points it would start to buckle. At points it would ache. At points it would irritate and annoy. So he had to just mentally refocus on other things down the field and forget about the irritant that was his knee. It wasn't debilitating. It didn't stop him from playing, obviously, but I think it was a handicap for Tom Brady, and he had to fight through it. And my final takeaway is he got it fixed. And I'm looking forward to seeing Brady at age 44. He turns 44 on August 3rd. Happy birthday, Ernestine, a few weeks in advance. Love you. But the point is, at 44, he might even be better than ever on a fixed MCL. I can't wait.
Yeah, but Skip, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are times I've seen Tom Brady practice without that knee brace. Now, we know he's ever since he's injured that knee in 2008, he's always worn that knee brace. So he's practicing without it. So it tells me that, you know what, I'm not going to be doing a lot of movement. But once you put that knee brace on, Skip, it does give you a feeling, a sense of comfort and stability that you know, okay. And besides, like you said, he's not going to be doing no dot to dot. He's not going to be going side to side and front to back like a Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. But, Skip, it's impressive. But I don't believe that's the most impressive thing that he did last year, playing through that. It was going to a different location and winning the Super Bowl. That was more impressive than him playing on an MCL, torn MCL, to me.
Greatest single season in the history
there you go.
of the
See,
NFL.
there you go. See,
Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. last
Let
year.
me just say, Ernestine and Tom sharing a birthday is about as good as it gets.
How cool
44.
is that?
I know. It's a perfect fit for you, Skip. Fixed MCL. Shannon.
Ernestine's going to get a gift.
Ready.
You know who's not getting a gift from Shannon.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.